Okay, so this is a basic editing tutorial for Adobe Premiere 2015 for Griffin communication photographers who already have a working knowledge of Avid Newscutter. There are some differences. There is a little bit of a learning curve, but this is going to help you for basic editing of a package in the field. There will be other videos later on with advanced for color correcting, effects, pictures, things like that. This is just the basics to get you started. So the first thing you do is in the bottom bar you find the Premiere icon and just open. You only have to click that once. When this box opens right here, you want to select Field Editor. It's important that you select that because all the settings are going to be the way you need them. Don't create a new project. You'll just get yourself in problems. So just click on Field Editor. And this is the layout of the screen that you should be seeing on your laptop. Right here in the center is the source window for your source clips. You have the program window. I like to call it the timeline window. Down here is your timeline. And then here is going to be your audio mixers. I'll explain that in a second. And this box right here is your project window, which in Avid would be like the Wednesday project or Thursday project. That is, and these little folders are your actual bins. To get started, the first thing you're going to do is you're just going to right click in here and you're going to create a new bin, and then you simply label it whatever it's going to be. We'll call this test project. You should also have a folder here that's called common files. That's going to have your vignette, Sky News 9 bugs, safe area in case you need to create graphics. There's also some other things that are going to be in here. Your white background. So that should never be deleted, and nothing else should ever be put in there. When you open it up, all you're going to see initially is going to be whatever folders others have created. This sequence right here, this is a sequence. Here it says Z News 9. This is the master sequence. We never edit in this sequence. What you do is once you've created your bin, in this case test project, you go down here and you click on that sequence, you right click, and you want to duplicate. Once you've duplicated it, click and select it, click and hold, and drag that into your bin. And you can see with this little minimize, here it is. Now you can rename your sequence. Let's call it test project. And there you go. Now everything you do for your story should be in your bin. The rest, you should not be putting anything in any other bins, and you should never use this master sequence to edit on. So once we've done this, we're going to double click on our sequence, and now it's loaded our sequence down here, and it's loaded our audio mixers here. Now in this window, we'll go over this further more in depth here in a second, but you actually have two audio mixers. There's the audio track mixer, there's the audio clip mixer. And basically the difference is the audio track mixer, any changes you make to audio changes it for the entire track on the entire sequence. When you use the audio clip mixer, that actually changes the audio for each individual clip or in your source window. This is what you're going to use more than anything else, is the audio clip mixer. So we've got all this done. Now we want to click and highlight our project. It's just a single click. We go up here. It's very important that you do this because you need to highlight your bin before you import video to make sure that your video goes into that bin. We're going to go up here to the tab called Media Browser, and you're going to see if you have thumb drives in, those will show up. Right now we have the C drive, which is for the computer. We have the F drive, which is my P2 card, which is in the P2 card reader. For that, you just click it one time, and here all my video loads on the right, and I'll scroll through there. So there you go, there's all my video. You select the video you want to import by clicking the first one and then either holding shift and going down to select everything, or you can use control to click and select individuals. I'm just going to bring in just a few shots. Once you've selected all the clips you want to import, over top of one of the icons you just right click, import. And if we go back here to our project, you're going to see that the clip's imported into that bin right here. Now, when it comes to editing, you have with the description, that's the same as comments in Avid. You can just simply label your clips. So I know the first one is an interview. And then a cutaway. Church pan. You get the idea. This one here I have set up not to show me time code. With the laptop, you're going to probably, this next window is going to be media start, where I have media duration. That is time code. You can click that and you can change to make everything in time code order. That's also so that you can see your time codes. Over here in the source window, the time code is also right here in blue. This is the duration window, or where you've set your in and out point. It will show you the duration. So now that we have our clips loaded and we have our sequence created, we're ready to edit. Now quickly I want to go back to Media Browser. I want to show you that let's say you need to bring in a picture, or you've saved pictures off your phone, pictures have been emailed. Always save those pictures to the desktop, and to get to those you will click on the C drive. You will select down here users, double click that. Here I click on owner. You're actually going to click on the folder that says photog or photogs, but we'll click on that, and then you just find the desktop icon and double click on that, and it will give you everything that's on your desktop. And it, just like video, you'll select the ones you want to import, right click and import. Also with the P2, if you see this little blue eye, it's called Directory Viewers. You click that, you're going to see it's selected Panasonic P2. Typically Premiere will select, if you have ABC HD, that will be selected, and it selects whatever sequence or whatever workflow you're bringing in. But there are some times where maybe we stored an HDV file or an MP4 file that we exported file video that we need to bring with us, and that video is on our P2 card. Well, under the P2 setting, you're not going to see that file. So what you would have to do is, if you have that situation, is go up to the eye, click on it, and select File Directory. That's going to show you the contents folder, which is our P2 video, but any other files you've saved basically using your P2 card as a hard drive will be right here. So we're going to go back and change that to P2. We see our clips. Let's go back to our project. Okay, so there you go. So now we're ready to start laying something down on our timeline to edit. Let's just say we're going to start with this interview. We double click it, it loads right here. Another option for editing is you can actually double click the actual bin and it will open up your bin. You can select this little tab in the bottom left called Icon View, and that will bring these up. Now one of the cool things about Premiere is if you do have your bin open like this, with your mouse you can actually scroll over left and right over top the video, and it will scroll the video without actually having to load it in a source monitor. So if you wrote on several things in one clip, you can kind of scroll through to see what was there, and you just double click and it will load it into the source window. Unfortunately there's no minimize on this, so you have to actually close it to edit, and then you have to reopen it again. That's why it's always better to just label your clips and just work right here out of the project. Okay, so now we're going to find a soundbite here. I on the keyboard is your endpoint.
Children? Correct. He was sending and receiving different pornographic pictures and videos.
Spacebar to start and stop. O on the keyboard is your out point. And then just like in Avid, JKL works the same way, where you can fast forward and scroll through. So those are the same. So now I've got my first soundbite, and if we play that again.
Correct. He was sending and
look
receiving
at the audio meters on the right.
Different pornographic.
Channel 2 is where I recorded the sound from my microphone, so channel 2 is what I need to lay down. Down here on the timeline, you're going to see, just like Avid, this is your source, The right side is your sequence. In Avid, if I wanted to lay down just video 1 and audio 2, then I would deselect the others and then I would lay it down. Unfortunately, that doesn't work that way with Premiere, because if I lay it down, you'll see it put everything down. Control Z to undo it. With Premiere, you actually have to deselect on the left side. And then let's say, I did the interview on channel 2, but for editing purposes, we put reporter track and sound bites on channel 1, and that's on channel 2, because we're only going to export 2 channels of audio. So I need to move this. Just like Avid, I just drag it up, and you can change 2 goes now to track 1. And I can lay that down using the period to overwrite, and there I've laid it down.
Correct. He was sent.
And there it is. Now with Avid, we always, when we send a package, we want to have a second of pad, and with Avid you can do the Alt H to add a second. You can't do that with Premiere, so all you do is scroll the line to 101, and then you can select all of your clips by dragging and creating, and then you just drag it to the line. Now, then you would need to pull this back over to create a second of pad, but before I do that, I want to explain these 3 icons up here underneath the time code on the sequence. The first is called Insert Overwrite for sequences. What that means is if you were to take all of your raw video, put it in a separate sequence, and then edit out the sequence, this needs to be turned on to be able to lay video from one sequence into another sequence. The second icon is called Snap. All that means is if you hit Shift click, let's say I'm over here and I hit Shift click, it's going to take me to an edit point. In Avid, it's Control click, so there's a little bit of a difference. So Shift click takes you to control points. Also, when you're moving your video around, Snap will let it go right to the line. It won't drift over, and you don't have to match it up. So I leave Snap on. If you can turn it off, but when you do that, the Shift click doesn't really work. And when you move video, it won't snap right to the line. So I leave that on. I'm going to go back to 101. The arrow keys, just like in Avid, move everything 1 frame. We're going to select all this and I'm going to drag this. Now the third icon under here is called Link Selection. I'm going to get this out of the way. Link Selection. Right now I have it off. If I turn that on, what that means is if I just select the video and go to move it, it's moving everything. If I turn that off and I select the video, it's only going to move the video. That's also important for once we have laid it out here at a second ahead, we need to pull back to create our pad. There's no extend tool like there is in Avid. There is a trim tool, but basically if you hover over the end of the clip, you'll see the little trim icon to move it either way. If I have this link selection on and I try to move the video, it's going to move audio too. So with that off, if I try to move the video, it just moves the video. And now we have our second of pad at the beginning of our package. So now we're just going to go in, and basically what I want to do is really quickly, I'm going to click to the end. I'm going to use another piece of sound from him. We're going to assume this is our reporter track.
So
in-point,
I can't
out-point.
give their age, but they are definitely
We're just
young
going to
enough
use
that it's
this
very
as an
disturbing.
example as a
Okay.
reporter track. So out, put an out point, and then I'm going to use period to overwrite. And I laid video. I didn't want to do that. Deselect video. Do it again. There we've laid down audio. So there's that. Now the next shot we're going to say we're going to use the cutaway. So
You can't just call them in and interview them. They have to be taken to the Abbott house.
Out point, and because this is a B-roll shot, I want channel 2. I want to lay channel 2 for Nats. Lay that again, and there you go. Now let's say let's say you have two tracks, and and you've messed up, you forgot a track, and you need to insert it right there. I'll go up here, and another piece, in
So a part of anything at the church after that.
Okay.
out point, and I want to insert it right there on channel 1. Turn off video. Now the comma button will insert, and there I go, I've inserted an audio track. So period overwrites, comma will insert. Those are also right here in the source window. They're two icons if you need to use if you use the mouse to do the same thing. And it also tells you there in parentheses what the shortcut key on the keyboard is. The other two main keys that you're going to need to know are the colon key and the quotes key, basically. They're just diagonal and to the right of, okay, forget that. The other two main keys that you're really going to need to know are the quotes key and the colon key. And the reason you need to know that is, let's say, okay, I want to pull this soundbite out. I just shift click, put an in point, shift click, and then go back one space to put an out point. And I can do two things here. I can just lift that out, which in this case is the colon key, and it just removes it and leaves the space. Control Z. Or I can use the quotes key, which is right beside the enter key, and it will lift it and move the space. The other option you can do is, if you want to get rid of in and out points, just right click up here, clear in and out, or clear in, clear out. The other option you can do is you can actually just click on that, hit delete, and then inside here, actually that doesn't work, never mind. So here you go. So an in, an out, and we'll delete it. So we took that clip out. From there, the next thing you need to know is with your B-roll, one of the things to keep in mind is, let's say we want to fill this gap with a B-roll shot. So I click, put an in point, click to go to the out, and actually go back one and hit an out. And I want to lay a B-roll shot. I've got this church pan here, and let's say it starts right here. Put an in point, which is I, put it out, stops about there, put an out point. Now when you put an in point and an out point in both your source and your sequence, and you try to lay it down, you're going to get this window. Basically what this says is, up here you get the source is shorter than the destination. So my little pan shot isn't long enough. So I can either ignore the source out point, ignore the source in point, or you can do the change clip speed, which is fit to fill, just like in Avid. Hit that, and it didn't do it because I didn't have my channels selected. Do it again, change clip speed, and now I've laid down my B-roll shot. And what it automatically changed the speed.
Give their age, but they are definitely young enough that it's very disturbing.
But that looks a little jittery, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that out. I'm going to try to overwrite again. This time I am going to ignore the sequence out. Okay, and now you'll see it laid down just what I had selected. And then what I'll do is I'll just put a different shot in there. Just anything really. The doors work fine. Inputs. And then I want the whole shot. I don't even have to put an out point. Lay it down. So now we have soundbite, pan shot, B-roll, doors, cutaway, pretty much standard stuff. Once I have done this, okay, so now you know the basics of how to insert and lay editing. And again, the 4 keys you need to know more than anything are comma, which inserts, period overwrites, quotes will lift and move your sequence, and then the colon button just lifts something out and leaves the gap. Now we get into audio. We need to fix our audio here. So let's say his audio is a little low.
Sending and receiving.
We always want everything to peak right around -12. If you keep it there and don't let it get any higher, when you send it back and it gets put into Avid and sent to playback, everything's going to be just right. So we need to raise that. Again, we went over the audio mixers a little earlier. We're going to fix our audio using the audio clip mixer. And here on channel 1, let's say I boost it to +6. In the audio clip mixer, 6 is the highest you can go. Let's listen to it.
Correct. He was sending and receiving different.
And you see the meters on the right. It's pretty close, but it needs to be boosted a little more. But we can't go any further with the mixer. So to increase your audio even more, you would click on the audio clip, right click on it, and select audio gain. You will select set gain to, and let's say we need it to go another 3 dB, so just 3, enter. And we'll play it.
Correct. He was sending and receiving different.
And that's about right. And we come over here to our NAT. This is our shot that has track.
So I can't give their age, but they are.
And again, the track's a little low, so we're going to up boost it. And because I know it's the exact same source, we'll go audio gain, and we're going to boost it another 3.
And videos, so I can't give their age.
But the nats are way too high, so we come over here, our slider, and we just pull it down, -13, and let's check.
And videos, so I can't give their age, but they are
still a little high, so we go again to -22.
And videos, so I can't give their age, but they are.
And that's about right.
Young enough to.
The next shot, the same thing. Now you can move the slider here on the clip mixer, or you can just enter the number. So -22, enter.
Enough that it's very disturbing.
Okay.
And we're pretty good. So that's the basics of editing and controlling your audio. You can use keyframes to control audio. I'm not going to go over that right now. I'll do that in another video when we get into effects. The quickest way, if you have, let's say this shot right here is a nap break to start. Increase the. Let's say the first part of that's a nap break, and then I want to bring down the audio. Over here in this these are your little tools here, and there's several different ones you can play around with. But the main one that I use is the razor tool. So I select that, I go over here, and on my line I click that, and basically what that did is that just split my audio track in half. Then what I do is I listen to the first part.
You can't just call.
Bring that up a little. And then and then the second piece of audio, I click that, or I scroll over it and I pull that down. And then all I do is where I had the cut is I'm going to go up here to effects, and in the favorites you take the constant gain and just drag it into that cut, and then if you look down here you're going to see your audio effect, your transition. You can click and highlight it. If you double click on it, you can change the duration. Right now it's set at 10 frames, which is where I usually like to keep my nat transitions, so I'll just leave that the same. But you can change that. You can drag this over, drag it this way, just whatever, and again Control Z moves everything back. So now if we listen to this nap break,
Yeah, you can't just call them in.
it starts high, goes low. So there's over here in the effects tab, I was saying in the favorites, there is a lot of effects that are going to be the basic effects you're going to need. Constant gain is basically an audio dissolve. Cross dissolve is video dissolve. Dip to white is your white flash. Warp stabilizer. There will also be other effects in the favorites, which will be like color correcting, crop, which I have here. And so that's basically to do any kind of fix or effect. All you do literally is take the effect and drag it onto your clip and go to Effects Controls. In this case I put a crop, and then basically all I do is right here under the percentages you just move it, and that's how you can crop. And let's fix this back to normal. And let's say you put an effect on. Now quickly, you, unlike Avid where you have to double click and create different layers, you can add as many effects on that clip as you want, and they're all right here in the effect controls. You would scroll down, and let's say let's add another one just for the heck of it, just so I can show you. So let's add a color correction, and let's pull fast color corrector on top. Now if I go to the effect controls, the first one I had added was crop, so it's still there. The next one is my color corrector and the little wheel I can move around to adjust if I need to. But let's say you put effects on here and you don't want to undo everything with Control Z and you need to get rid of something. So I want to get rid of crop. I just click on where it says FX, I click on crop to highlight it, and I just hit delete, and it's been moved. Do the same thing with color corrector, delete, it's gone. These effects are basic effects that stay on every clip. Don't do anything to delete these. And there you go. That's how you would add effects to your video. So this is the basics of editing with Premiere, just basic stuff. You can play around with the effects, with the dissolves, things like that. I'll get into more detailed stuff later on in other videos, but this is just to start. The only other thing you're really going to need to know right now is I'm going to show you how you export and what the settings are. So let's just assume that this is our finished video that we need to export and send to the station. You would double click on your sequence, go to the beginning and put an in point, go to the out, shift click, and then go back one frame and put an out point. So you've got your in and out point on your sequence. Your sequence up here in the projects bin is labeled. Now we just go to File, and we're going to go down here to Export and select Media. This window will open up. By default, the settings should be okay, but if they're not, what you need to look for is up here in the right under Format. It needs to be MXF OP1A, and it's right down here. Very important. Preset XDCAM HD Export or XDCAM HD. It's going to be at the very top. It's a preset that's already loaded for you, so you just click that. And here we go. This is our so everything's ready. Now output name, you click on the name, this opens up. Make sure you select desktop, name your project, but if you've named your sequence it should already be named. Just click save, and down here in the bottom right you just click export. And now our sequence is exporting to the desktop. Okay, so now we've done that. If you minimize Premiere, go here to the desktop, you'll see two files. This is just an XMP data file. It doesn't really mean anything. You need this main MXF file. So there's your project has been exported. From there you can either put that on a thumb drive and FTP it through the Degero, or open up FileZilla. Make sure you're connected to the internet, and this is FileZilla. Up here in the top left, open the Site Manager, click on the little arrow for a drop down. Now mine says News 9, yours is going to say Griffin FTP, but you just click on that and it will automatically connect you to the FTP site. You don't actually have to enter in the host username password. The preset's already there. So we have this window up. If you've exported to the desktop, right here is your computer tree. So under the C drive, just want to scroll down. Mine is actually set for something different. That's why I have to do this. In the C drive, you want to find user, owner, desktop. The reality is I'm not going to change anything here because actually I am. Hang on. So I clicked on the desktop. Here's my test project right here. I've highlighted it. This is the Griffin FTP server. So all you have to do is click and drag and let go, and down here you're going to see a status bar. It's going to tell you roughly how much time is left, the percentage that's been sent. Once this hits 100%, call the editors, let them know that it's been sent through FileZilla and FTP. They can pull it, put it into Avid, and you're done. I went through the tree up here to find my desktop, but the reality is this should already be preset so that when you've connected, this is going to be the desktop, and your project should be whatever you've named should be there, and you just drag it. You shouldn't have to go through this tree to find your stuff. So there's that. And once it hits almost at 100%, once it's at 100%, you see file transfer is complete. You can close FileZilla, call editors, stay on the line, make sure that they have they've got it, everything played, audio's fine and clean. And once they tell you that you're all good, then you can shut down Premiere. One thing I would suggest is to not delete your stuff out of the project yet. The only reason being is that they tell you everything's okay, you get going down the road and they say, oh, there's a problem. Well, then you can hook everything up, put your card back in, open Premiere, it's all still here, your package is still there. The next time you log in, if somebody else has other bins in here, once the story's there, then you can start deleting and get rid of everything. So I've got an in and out point. I'm going to hit my quotes button by the enter button. I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to select everything here and hit delete, and it's all gone. Control S, and then I close it, and I'm ready for the next time that I use Premiere.